My name is Donziger. I'm a human rights lawyer and I was given the highest bail for a misdemeanor in U.S. history. Cash bail is inherently discriminatory and unfair. If you have no money, you have the same situation as someone with money. You might have to spend years in prison pre-trial, whereas the person with money is out. In most countries, civilized countries, do not do that. But the United States does it in excess. There's millions of people every year in the United States locked up without trial, locked up without being convicted of a crime. Everyone should be treated equally regardless of money. Cash bail should be ended. I live in New York City, Manhattan. I've lived here for 25 years. It's my home. I really like the city. I like the diversity. I like the different types of people. I like the energy. I like the community. You know, a lot of people don't realize, well, this is an enormous city. It's really an intimate city. And if you sort of break it down into where you live in your neighborhood, everybody knows each other. It's really safe because there's so many people around. I find it's a city that's easy really to learn a lot in and grow in. My legal career is one of dedication to human rights and really fighting for the most vulnerable in our society. I've spent almost 3 decades now on a case out of Ecuador on behalf of indigenous peoples and farmer communities whose ancestral lands were poisoned by Chevron. They drilled 400 plus well sites over this large area of rainforest, and they designed a system of oil extraction to literally dump deliberately to save money billions of gallons of cancer-causing toxic waste into the rainforest, including into rivers and streams that local communities relied on for their drinking water, their bathing, and their fishing. This created an ecological catastrophe. It killed people and still kills people to this day because no one has cleaned it up. And we've been battling for years to hold Chevron accountable in a court of law. There's really 2 cases. The underlying environmental case against Chevron, which the Amazon communities in Ecuador won historic achievement in 2011. They're battling Chevron to force the company to comply with the rule of law. Chevron, rather than pay the judgment, retaliated by suing me in a civil racketeering case for $60 billion, the most money any individual ever in the history of the United States has ever been sued for. So I refused to turn over my computer and confidential case file to Chevron for various valid legal reasons. So when I challenged that on appeal, the judge charged me with criminal contempt of court. They promptly had me locked up at home. They imposed what I believe is maybe the largest bail ever imposed on anyone charged with a misdemeanor, which was $800,000, on top of the fact I was put in house arrest on a misdemeanor. I mean, I think they calculated I wouldn't be able to get the money to put up for the bail. Luckily I did. There were people who care about me who posted my bond from the equity in their home. So the sentence for a misdemeanor, the maximum, is 6 months in jail. I spent over 4 times my maximum sentence locked up before my trial even started. I'm like a relatively privileged white dude in America. I mean, think about that. And I got an $800,000 bail. Luckily, because of the resources I have and the people I know, was able to project out and explain this to the world, even while I was detained at home. But think about all the millions of people every year in this country who get arrested for petty crimes, who have little or no money, cannot post bail, get locked up pre-trial and have no voice. And it happens to many people because they have no money. Total discrimination against people with no money. And they're violating the US Constitution. Any reasonable interpretation of the 8th Amendment, which is a prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment, would outlaw a feature that has such a punishment component on someone who's never been given a trial, just because they have no money. So yeah, I think we have to eliminate cash bail. How do you quantify losing almost 3 years of my life at a time that my only child, my son, was 12 and 13 and 14? He lost 3 years of full use of his father, and I lost 3 years of enjoyment with my son and my family by being locked up. How do you calculate that? What's that worth? I have a lot of hope. I'm really an eternal optimist. I really believe in the human spirit and the inherent generosity of all people. The challenge is the politics. Like, we need, as a movement, to organize the people at the grassroots level to create the kind of world that we deserve. You know, a world that isn't driven exclusively by profit. The other thing we need to do is support things like the Bail Project and help finance them so the whole cash bail system can slowly be chipped away at so we can have the kind of political space and the freedom we need to do our work as advocates necessary to create the just world that we all aspire to.